Is there a cool announcement when it comes to the internet computer? Well, even despite ICP now officially being below $3 yet again, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, I think despite all that, I still find how there's a pretty cool announcement that I saw recently. Because remember the World Computer Day event that supposedly was going to happen in January in 2026? Guess what? There's going to be a new speaker there, or should I say a speaker that just recently got announced, and that is supposedly going to be Dr. Alex. Now, the thing is, Dfinity made this post, and they're talking about how, again, Dr. Alex is supposedly going to be speaking at the World Computer Day. Now, he is allegedly a professor. However, let me just give a little bit of a background as to Dr. Alex, supposedly. Now, when it comes to Dr. Alex, he is supposedly a member of the faculty of both Stanford and MIT. I have friends who went there. But besides that point, I also take a look at how he even serves as an advisor on digital economy, and not to mention, he is allegedly a serial entrepreneur. Not to mention, Dr. Alex, he previously helped create and direct MIT Connection Science, as well as the MIT Media Lab. So I find what I see right here very impressive. I think Dr. Alex has achieved a lot so far. However, also on top of that, he is supposedly one of the most cited computational scientists in the world, and even Forbes declared him one of the seven most powerful data scientists in the world. So when I take a look at something like this, isn't this pretty cool, at least in my perspective? Because a lot of people were telling me, who cares about this event? Well, again, we just see Dr. Alex is going to be appearing in that World Computer Day. He's going to be speaking there, which is on Tuesday, January 20th in 2026. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And again, like I mentioned in my previous video, I've been to Switzerland before. I think it is very amazing. So yeah, I find this pretty cool. I would love to go back there again. But besides that point, we also take a look at how Dr. Alex, he is the Senior Research Fellow at the Stanford Institute for Human Capital Centered Artificial Intelligence. And I find this pretty interesting. And this actually kind of harps back to my previous points that I mentioned in some of my previous videos. It's kind of like the narrative of AI when it comes to the internet computer. Because if we take a look at, for instance, the internet computer, right? People like to say back then, no one's really going to care about it. But actually, we take a look at the aspect of AI. I find it pretty interesting now that we're kind of beginning to see this narrative sort of, emerge, I would say, when it comes to the internet computer. Because we take a look at Caffeine AI, right? Self-writing apps platform. We take a look at how supposedly the internet computer, we see the aspects of decentralized AI. We see how Dfinity is kind of pushing this narrative of things being fully on-chain when it comes to the internet computer. So I like seeing all of this. And also, when I take a look at Dfinity, I think if anything, it kind of shows their effort. Now again, if a project is still trying to do events, if a project is still trying to do things, is it such a bad thing? I probably don't think so, because if I take a look at Dfinity in and of itself, I feel like even despite ICP not doing the best, they still seem to be at least kind of updating and just kind of doing things. That's my perspective. And I like seeing that because some other projects out there, they don't really do that. And again, when it comes to this is still in December, right? We're still in December as of right now. Now, granted, January 20th, it's like basically a month away from this point, but I'm just saying, when it comes to that, could there be more speakers that are announced when it comes to this event? Maybe, who knows? But if there was, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me because I find it pretty cool, right? And I think when people see something like Dr. Alex speaking there, maybe it could, have this sort of vibe where it's like, okay, yeah, we'll speak there too. Who knows? But I find it pretty cool in my perspective. And also keep in mind, Dr. Alex, at least when I take a look at it on X, he is followed by the CEO of Quant. I find it pretty interesting because does that kind of indicate his sort of, I guess, presence within this space? I think arguably to a certain extent, yeah, because his achievements so far, I think, at least from what I can see, have been pretty impressive, at least the one that Dfinity posted. And when I take a look at it as well, it's pretty interesting seeing, like, let's say, data scientist, right? We see even aspects of that arguably when it comes to the event of World Computer Day. And some other projects out there, they don't really bother with events or something like that. But again, I just find it pretty cool. I think it's a good way to probably connect, right? To kind of, talk with other people within this space and kind of build connections, hopefully. And also at the same time to kind of just get to know other people within this space. So I find it pretty cool. I find it pretty interesting because sometimes during these collaborations, during these meetings, right? During these events, sometimes new partnerships do come along. In some cases, I see. I don't know if it's going to happen in this case. I'll have to wait and see because it's not even January 20th yet. But I'm just saying, I like the whole kind of concept behind this event, right? That's what I like to call it. Now, the altcoin space, okay, I get it, it's not doing good, but I still find this pretty cool. I mean, other projects out there don't really care. A lot of them just don't really post anymore, but I find it pretty interesting. Now, granted, though, I mean, when is ICP going to do its thing? It's going to be like totally out of my control. That's going to depend on the altcoin space, the sentiment and stuff like that. But I'm still staying patient. I'm still holding. Some of my friends out there, they don't dollar cost average anymore. A lot of them just, you know, don't really care, right? But I see a lot of my friends, they're still holding. They're not exiting necessarily, but they're not really dollar cost averaging anymore either. Now, that's from what I noticed from some of my friends. I cannot control anyone. This is just from what I can see. But in the meantime, personally for me, I am still holding, right? I'm still staying patient, but I am still a dollar cost averaging only once a month. That's it for the projects that I'm a fan of. But the thing is, for me, as long as I see stuff like this, it just keeps me a little bit, I guess, more cheerful, right? It keeps me a little bit more happy, a little bit more entertained. At least there's something that I can look at during a time when ICP is clearly not doing the best. Actually, as of right now, it's around 34 and a half times, like, less than $100. So clearly it's not doing good, but at least stuff like this, again, keeps me a little bit entertained, and I'm looking forward to maybe what they could announce next when it comes to Dfinity, and just see what happens when it comes to this World Computer event. Historically in the past, sometimes when a project has an event or something like that, they don't really talk about it. They don't really want to post about it too much because they feel like, it's kind of unimportant. But I like the initiative here because I feel like Dfinity understands the magnitude of an event like this and what it could hypothetically be for its future. Who knows? Which is why I like how they're treating it seriously. Some other projects out there, they're just having an event for the sake of it, right? Just to say that, oh yeah, we had an event once. It's like, what's the point? For me, could this be sort of the Coachella of Dfinity? I mean, who knows? That's just kind of my sort of analogy when it comes to this because, Coachella, we see the constant events. When it comes to the World Computer Day, is it to a certain extent the Coachella of this space? I think probably not, but I'm just saying it kind of gives me that vibe a little bit. But yeah, besides that point, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. And I'll be sure to hopefully make more updates when it comes to the internet computer. And yeah, it's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.